I think within a year we had 10,000 different order combinations that had already been placed. Because someone would get, two of one product, one of the other, and then, two of one product, two of that product. It just kind of became pretty crazy. So, and we didn't have like the proper infrastructure in place for tracking a lot of that. So that had to be really like scrounged together and built on the fly while we had this business that was growing so quickly. Chris always had the best analogy for it that I can think of, which was like we were renovating a house while there's a party going on. There's people drinking in one room, they're tracking paint all through the living room. So there was a lot to navigate. It was really interesting experience those first couple of months, especially when it all kicked off and was going crazy.
Hello, everyone. Coming at you live in the Ad Buyers group, Tim Bird's amazing Ad Buyers group, one of my favorite Facebook groups out there. Welcome to season 2 of The Robust Marketer. This is basically the start of my second season, let's call it. I think it's episode 40 something. But I wanted to start hosting these podcasts live. And actually, usually we don't usually do a lot of editing. There's not very much, not much that we add to these interviews. But I wanted to try doing this live, seeing how it's going. So for the first several interviews that we're going to do in season 2, we're going to host them in Friends of Mine groups. So if we're starting in the Ad Buyers group, we're going to go to Ecom Empires next week and do a podcast there as well. We'll still be releasing these as regular podcasts on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play. But for now, we are happy to be trying these live. So it's a cool experiment. So I'm just using Be Live actually for the first time. And we've already got questions. We've got live comments here. Am I currently in Toronto is one of the questions. No, I am not. I'm in Victoria, British Columbia. But Alex and I, who is my guest today, share a Toronto connection. So I just wanted to start with a little preamble here. The first thing I want to let you know that's going on with season 2 of The Robust Marketer is we're going to focus exclusively on speakers and entrepreneurs and marketers who we're actually working with in our upcoming live events. So this is the first series of our e-commerce mastery live Asia tour, where we're going to start with Alex Brown. I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a second. So Alex and I met online a little while ago. We got introduced through a friend. And I could just sort of, there was a real kindred spirit thing going on here. Alex Brown is co-founder of the Beard Club, which is an 8-figure subscription e-commerce juggernaut. And he is doing all sorts of other cool things regarding teaching entrepreneurs really how to build incredible brands, build incredibly loyal tribes, and build incredible e-commerce businesses related or not to the subscription model. But that's a lot of where his expertise really resides. So if you have questions for us, if you want to know about e-commerce mastery live, which happens on December 7th in Bangkok, Thailand, if you aren't coming, you should really consider a trip to Southeast Asia to join us there for this amazing training event. If you have any questions about the event, if you have any questions as we go through this interview in this new live format, we can certainly address them. So we'll go through that. So welcome to The Robust Marketer, Alex. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. I was saying your beard is well up to the club moniker, so I think that's fantastic.
I took quite a bit of it off. It was pretty big and getting a bit unruly, and decided to freshen things up and change things up a little bit for summer. But getting a little colder now for winter in some parts of the world anyway. So maybe it's time to grow it back out again.
Nice. Well, we'll see. We'll have to see it. You have to be fresh for Bangkok, but they do love a good beard over there in Bangkok as well, because they don't grow them very well.
Right.
Themselves generally. But why don't we start with a little bit of an overview of your marketer hero's journey? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today and how you got there.
So I actually, like you'd said, kindred Canadian spirits. I grew up close to Toronto, Ontario, up in Canada, and went to school to hopefully get a corporate job. But I didn't actually want to be an entrepreneur. Just sort of ended up that way. I had a construction business because my dad was into it. So I put myself through school being an entrepreneur, but just wanted to get I thought the world owed me an amazing job if I got a degree. That was not the case. Graduated during the last big recession. So big slap in the face there, and kind of turned back to entrepreneurship and started to get involved in the startup scene and just kind of volunteer and do whatever I could to get involved with startups because nobody would hire anyone that had a degree of no experience. And so kind of did a bunch of different things in that space, a lot of stuff helping other entrepreneurs and kind of lobbying the government for entrepreneurship support up in Canada. And then, one thing led to another. I got connected with Chris, my business partner from Beard Club. And he was in California at the time. He's another Canadian boy. And I'm really, have been really good at operations and kind of taking a big idea and putting it into systematic steps that can at least get things rolling. And after that can be adjusted. And Chris is a super creative, unbelievably pie in the sky sort of creative guy. So we worked really well together and hit it off. And so moved to California 4 years ago. And we started doing kind of Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns and trying to launch products and just basically trying to sell anything we could. We had a wearables product, we had a golf product, and we'd kind of do a Kickstarter, ship the product, and then figure out, we didn't really want to be in that market, or the opportunity wasn't really there, something that we weren't really passionate about. But we got this kind of knack for branding something and creating a campaign that people would share and get after and be interested in. So people started asking us to do it for them. So that's what we did. We kind of started an agency, as a lot of people do. So we were shooting videos and building websites and helping people launch products. And at that point, we launched another product of our own called Coolbox, which did really well in Indiegogo. It's like a smart tech toolbox with lights and speakers and a battery and all sorts of stuff like that. And did really well, $500,000 in Indiegogo. And that just helped our network, expand tremendously. Landed my business partner, Chris, on Shark Tank. So, just for us, it was a tremendous learning experience. Would love to say that we made some money, but haven't really seen much of that yet. But we've actually were able to license the product out to a company who is now taking it to market and doing quite well with it. They're rebranding it, taking it out as a cooler. So it's cool to see, be able to pass that off and give it to a company that can really take it and make it large in a lot of big box stores. And that kind of freed up some of our time. So we started the Beard Club, which was started as Dollar Beard Club, and really kind of like an organic, fun business. It was, we never really expected it to do so well, but it was just sort of a fun thing that we thought about. We all had beards at that time, attracted a couple more co-founders into the mix, people who could do creative work and operations and stuff. So we started using beard products. We were all growing beards, using natural products, getting into holistic health and stuff like that. But all the beard oils out there were like $20 and full of crap that we didn't want to put on our face. So we kind of just saw the opportunity to slide in there and did what Dollar Shave Club did with a different spin on it. And it just went incredibly well. Well, we took everything we learned from all these other sort of, stumbles and failures and half successes and applied it to, actually building a bit of a list, creating an awesome video and just pressing launch. And from there, it just went absolutely crazy. We were able to hit all like the major press outlets in the first couple of days. We all of a sudden had this like high growth company without the experience of how to run a high growth e-commerce company. So it was just accelerated learning galore. Had to increase our team. Had no standard operating procedures in place. So all these are great problems to have, and I'm certainly not complaining. I'm grateful for all the struggles, but it wasn't an overnight success because we had all these other experiences, and it wasn't without its issues. I think what the really cool part about it, though, was that we just kind of latched onto this underlying current. I don't know if you've ever seen it when a guy with a giant beard walks into the room. There's another guy with a giant beard. They kind of do this like motorcycle wave with like, "Hey man, what's up?" Yeah. So we tapped into this kind of club that was already there between people and this vibe, and just figured out how to, I don't want to say exploit it, but just play into that and create really funny videos that would go viral and that people wanted to share. And it's something that someone would tag their friend, like they don't even have a beard, or a woman would tag their boyfriend or their brother because he has a beard and be like, "You got to see this. This is about beards," and stuff like that. So that's why it resonated so well with so many people and got us to that kind of viral launch point where we could kind of learn and figure out how to create an actual scalable business and manageable business instead of one that was just kind of built on sensationalism. So yeah, that was this crazy wild ride.
Or just it also you did a reverse approach that a lot of the new entrepreneurs getting into e-commerce do, where it's like you find a product that you may or may not believe in, that you think that there's a market for, and then you hammer it with ads until you see a response, and then you can scale it from there. Whereas you guys, like, yours was more like surfing in a way, right? Like you tapped into this giant force and kind of just let it roll. But you had to align all of the pieces in order to get caught up in that wave and as authentic essentially. So talk a little bit about what you did to really like. Well, it's another thing you did that's interesting is you didn't like you did something that was personally interesting, and that you like a lot of people may not advocate jumping into a niche that you embody or that you're really into, but you guys did exactly that. You made a product that you guys would want as as consumers, and then tapped into it. What were some of the ways that you tapped into it to have it come across so authentic and have such viral takeoff?
I think like I said, we made products, or like you said, we made products that we actually wanted to use. And maybe part of it was us doing it so we could have free beard products. But the marketing itself was all based on like trying to make people laugh and smile and share it with their friends. And at that point, we were really completely inexperienced at direct response marketing and Facebook advertising. We had a team member who was good at building an audience and helping us with that. But creating a sales funnel was like, we thought funnels were what we use for beer. And so until we started going out to some of like the events in the industry, like Traffic and Conversion, and being introduced to the mastermind scene, we had the skill set for building a brand and affinity around videos that we were able to share with people. And then they were like, dude, you guys need to build like a proper email list. And so it was kind of a cool give and take scenario. But yeah, it started with authenticity and videos that we would laugh at and want to watch, and products that we would want to wear.
Very cool. So now, did it start right away as a singular subscription where you'd get a different thing each month? Is that how it began and what it always was?
So it started as a fully customizable box. And that was, something that we had to develop over time. We had a ton of web issues, like ridiculous web issues, which we finally sorted out. But we built on kind of a custom platform. At this time, Shopify wasn't where it is, and WooCommerce wasn't where it is in terms of offering like, an out-of-the-box solution that's a little more dynamic. So we built a custom solution with 9 different SKUs that people would just kind of go through, 4 or 5 step checkout process where they'd see oils, and then they would see balm and wax, and then shampoo and stuff. So we would obviously have drop off through all of these. And eventually we were able to come out with a kit to make it really simple, like a one-click sort of buy. But it's always just been, you pick the products you want and then go in and customize it or change it or cancel it as it is. So it's just been always, very dynamic.
And it just always flexed. If someone could get $100 a month box if they wanted it, just by hammering on the goods.
Yeah, it made for a very complicated data scenario because, we would have, I think within a year, we had 10,000 different order combinations that had already been placed. Because someone would get, 2 of one product, 1 of the other. And then, 2 of one product, 2 of that product. It just kind of became pretty crazy. So, and we didn't have like the proper infrastructure in place for tracking a lot of that. So that had to be really like scrounged together and built on the fly while we had this business that was growing so quickly. Chris always had the best analogy for it that I can think of, which was like we were renovating a house while there's a party going on. There's people drinking in one room, they're tracking paint all through the living room. So there was a lot to navigate. It was really interesting experience those first couple of months, especially when it all kicked off and was going crazy.
I was just talking with someone in fulfillment today, and they were, because I've actually never worked with a fulfillment center personally, and they were talking about the more complex your order is, the more the more variations you can have between things, the more the fulfillment cost will be. What did you guys do in the early days of fulfilling? Were you doing it yourselves, or did you guys work with a fulfillment center early?
So we initially worked with kind of a mom and pop shop almost operation. They had some good warehouse management software, but it was not compatible with our website. And they simply couldn't keep up. So it created a ton of issues. We were missing a ton of shipments. The inventory counts were completely whacked. So we started with an outsourced solution, but right away they became sort of obsolete, and we had to, on the fly, scale up inventory at a whole new place and go over there. And yeah, like you said, it becomes typically when you have multiple products, if they're able to create kits ahead of time. And that's what we did with, there was, I think 8 or 10 really common combinations of products people are ordering. So being able to kind of pre-kit those, we have a custom box that they would build, the shipping box. So there's kind of a lot to the fulfillment process and a full-on assembly line that they have to kind of work with. So if you're able to kind of pre-kit things so they just lick and stick a stamp, it's much more cost effective and keep things down. So It took us a while to kind of work to that, and we didn't have the data on what would be those popular combinations at first. It took a little while to shake that out, and kind of like introduce a couple new products and see how they did, and shave a few off that weren't doing so well.
Very cool. It's a really interesting model. Like, and I've actually talked to a number of people lately who are really, you guys saying how you got press. You got press when you launched. Sorry, was the press for the Cool Box or was the press for the Beard Club?
So there's both kind of around the same time. So we had a couple of press connections that we were able to tap on the shoulder, but most of our press actually came from people just loved our initial video, and it just went on Reddit, and then it got upvoted like crazy. So a ton of people saw it on Reddit, and then it got put on Product Hunt, not by us. Like, so a lot of this was done organically, and we kind of realized that this was a huge part of our formula that probably if we tried to do it ourselves couldn't replicate. It's really hard to force like something going viral and to create that sort of recipe. So we were really fortunate that it did resonate so well with people that they went and put it on Product Hunt, put it on Reddit. And from those two sources, I mean, I think 90% of our media coverage came from those two.
Amazing. And how long was the halo effect on that? Was that like a week or 2 weeks, like when you launched? Or like how long did you feel the residual hit from that?
That was like the initial real push was probably 3 weeks. And then after that, things sort of died down. But by that time, our next objective was to launch in Canada. We started in the US, and we're a bunch of Canadian dudes. We're like, hey, we got to launch in Canada. So, we started working on our second video, and that was to launch the Canadian market. And then we were able to kind of tap all the same people on the shoulder. Some of them were interested, some of them were not. But it becomes more and more difficult to like, hey, this is Dollar Beard Club's 10th video. Let's, see if the press is interested. Like, there really has to be a story around it. So we would try and position it with different like things like, hey, this is kind of the revenue that we did. And this is sort of like a really weird unicorn situation where we're selling like, novelty cosmetics for men, but doing really well and growing. So, as long as we were able to package things up, we can kind of continue to see that media attention. And to be honest, I wouldn't say we were dependent upon it, but like that was a huge part of our early growth until we really understood a lot of our metrics and analytics, and were able to get our website to a point where we could start buying media more effectively instead of just kind of throwing money out there and promoting videos and hoping that it was doing well, just to be able to attribute sales properly to those ads and, have a more like, I guess you would say like responsibly scalable business instead of one that was just kind of built on like, the media pushes. Another thing that did really well for us was influencer marketing. That helped the snowball. I'm sure that got us on Reddit and Product Hunt as well. We had a number of different influencers that posted for us. Two of our advisors, Dan Fleischman and Brandon Hampton, were really big, or they still are really big in the influencer world. They built a ton of influential accounts and helped other influencers build those accounts. So they facilitated a lot of really great shares for us on that. And then about 3 months in, my business partner, Chris, was talking to Dan Bilzerian, who's just a big
great beard
Instagram influencers. Yeah, great beard. Very divisive guy, I guess you would say, or somebody who divides the nation in half. Sometimes you either love him or hate him, or hate to love him or love to hate him. But he was really excited by it and just kind of contacted Chris and was like, hey, I'd really like to invest in this. You can leverage my following, which at the time was, only about like 12 million. Now he's got like 25. So he came on as an early investor. And really at that point, we needed a bit of cash injected into the business because we needed to catch up for, on our inventory and be able to, create things ahead of time. It took about 6 weeks for our products to be manufactured. So if you stock out and it's still 3 weeks out, it's big trouble. So that cash helped us a lot in that respect. And his following, whenever he'd share a video, initially he'd just go crazy, and we'd see thousands of signups and within a couple of days.
That's unreal. I wanted to talk about Reddit. Like, Reddit is one of the biggest forces in the modern media. I think, I was reading a headline that said, like, a headline on Reddit gets like 100 times more eyeballs than a top CNN story at this point. Like, Reddit is just this huge force, but at the same time, they're so skeptical of consumerism in a way that it's like it has to be an organic experience for it to go viral there at all. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And we tried to do the same thing again, and sort of created a contest around like, hey, vote. Like we did a video launch. We're like, hey, upvote it on Reddit and you can win this and stuff. and not really like in a position. I'm sure there's Redditors watching this that probably hate me for confessing this, but we didn't do it out of like a place of like, hey, let's try and cheat the system. We're like, hey, like maybe this is a cool avenue and like a cool way for more people to see our video. We had no idea if it was going to work. And, the community found out about it. They're a tight knit community. And, we kind of got kicked in the butt for that one. And so that was taken down. And then we weren't allowed to post anything for a bit. And everything is good with Reddit. But yeah, it's the front page of the internet. And it's, it's a really well, I don't want to say controlled community, but a really well put together community of people that care about the integrity of the community. So, and, that, like I said, that's kind of living proof of trying to force something. We didn't realize it was unethical, but I guess it was. And it just sort of, there are ways to more tastefully do it, I guess. And to have a presence on Reddit, without kind of like, stepping on anyone's toes and doing it improperly. But, yeah, we learned our lesson on that one. It was a slap on the wrist. We're like, damn.
we thought we had this formula down.
For any Redditors out there, I'm really sorry if we didn't know what we were doing. We won't do it again.
Yeah, it'll be much slyer next time. Sorry, not sorry. Till you find a better method. Of making it happen, like all good marketers. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the early days of the Beard Club when you started spending on Facebook, and you were still having this halo effect of these. You weren't attributing things properly. You were still getting lots of signups from your media things, and then basically, what were the steps that you took early on to get your hands around hardcore CPA marketing? Was that your job within the organization, or did you have someone else?
No, that wasn't my job. I've sort of been the jack of all trades in the organization. One of our early partners, Kyle, was heading Facebook. We also had a number of our teammates kind of working on it, and then we sent them and out to get some training, basically from some really good folks, because we just realized that we needed to get our chops up more or less. And understood, the basics of retargeting and lookalike audiences and stuff like that. But really, we were kind of had our hands tied behind our back for a lot of the performance marketing stuff, because our website was in such dire straits. So until we figured that out, which took a while, we weren't as effective as we could have been. But kind of piecing together kind of all these different tactics allowed us to get that understanding where it needed to be a little more.
So your website was a mess in terms of it not being optimized for conversion. Essentially, it was just your first stab at throwing up a website, and it just that's basically
it. Was the multiple step thing I was telling you about was not optimized for conversion because there's drop off at each step. But there were we couldn't rapidly test different subject lines and not different subject lines, but positioning of buttons and stuff. It was a very kind of rigid setup, so we weren't able to test and optimize very easily. Our tracking would kind of routinely break, so we would have to make sure that we were change one thing on one part of the website, something else would break. It was just this crazy spaghetti infrastructure, and there was a lot of technical debt that we had a couple different CTOs take over and help get us to the next kind of level and stuff like that. Again, great problems to have, but it's kind of one of those things why aren't we just on Shopify or something like that? But at the time, it wasn't really possible for us.
Well, you were partying. It was a 24/7 party at the time. You're trying to keep the house together.
It was a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. All the best parties are. So investment. You took a little bit of money with Dan Bilzerian, which is a really great example of when to take money. I'd imagine, even though it was to help with I've heard sort of taking money for inventory is not usually a good play unless it benefits you in other ways, where this Dan Bilzerian, was a gift that kept on giving, I guess, because you got this locked in, you got the cash that you needed, and you got this the best influencer for you guys probably in the world at that time.
Yeah, it opened a ton of doors for us too, and created a lot of credibility where we were able to approach other influencers kind of with him in our back pocket. So yeah, it was smart money, as they would say. In that respect, there was a huge upside to having him on the cap table.
Very cool. So if we're talking about when you guys really started figuring out Facebook ads, about how long ago would that have been now? About 2 years ago?
So we launched just over 3 years ago. And the whole, as everyone in this group knows, the whole process is continuous experimentation and reinvention. But I mean, for the first, I would say really 5-6 months was really difficult for us to accurately market on Facebook. Another kind of big milestone for us about it was just over a year in. We took another small chunk of money to take part in the 500 Startups Advanced Accelerator program that they ran in LA, the Distro Dojo. So we didn't necessarily need the money. It helped with some acquisition and stuff like that, but we really wanted to get into the networks that they had. And we went into this sort of like boot camp, like VC style boot camp, and learned a ton about like growth hacking, and got to sit down at the table with Sean Ellis, who wrote Growth Hacking, the book. Talk to all these amazing mentors, and just kind of built a huge part of our network from that too. So that really helped us kind of get to the next level in terms of Facebook marketing, and just traffic and conversion and everything.
Very cool. So we won't go into too much detail on it because it's what your talk in Bangkok is going to be all about. But I wanted to talk a little bit about turning customers into a tribe, or really like how important the customer service aspect is to e-commerce success. It's not something everyone knows you need to have good customer service at this point, but it's kind of something that's sort of glossed over. I think a lot of people ignore it. What are your thoughts on sort of how to put like customer service at the top of your sort of value chain?
I mean, so like we sort of had a bit of a journey with this as well. Like I mentioned, we had a lot of fulfillment issues in the beginning, website issues, where people were being double charged or skipped orders and stuff like that. So, we had a lot of customer service issues in the beginning. And because we went so big so quick, people were like holding us to the standard of this big company where we were just, a bunch of guys trying to figure it out, doing our best. So we had to kind of create this level of transparency about that. And at the time we were looking at customer service like a cost center, and just like, we have to talk to these members, and, we have to make sure that they're happy, but it was never like a priority. We struggled initially with retention as well, for a number of reasons, like product offering, like order frequency, but also just kind of making people feel like they were part of something bigger than themselves in the club. Like that was the reason that we were able to bring people in. But once they purchased something, that was kind of where it ended. And really at kind of a transitional point, there's a couple of members that got our logo tattooed on them. And there's like 4 people now that have a Beard Club logo tattooed. So we're like, yeah, this is really cool. And we sent them a ton of free product and talked to them, and it kind of occurred to me like months later, I was just like, hey, like why did you do that? Why'd you go and get our logo tattooed? And he's like, honestly, like I'm a really shy guy, and it's tough for me to go out and talk to new people, and don't have a lot of self-confidence, but I use your products. It makes me feel like I'm worth taking care of, and it gives me an excuse to like go talk to that other bearded guy and like make a new friend, or just kind of break out of this social anxiety thing I have going on. And I feel like I'm part of something that's a club and something bigger. And at that point I'm just like, man, we're not really selling beard oil. And I think this is a huge disconnect a lot of people have in e-commerce, is the disconnect of what they're really selling. We're selling like confidence and belonging, and that's what people were buying, right? So we were completely misaligned with that, and it was kind of a huge wake-up call for us to really reprioritize retention, and really reprioritize creating like an actual membership experience that people truly enjoy and then want to advocate for. Another huge a book that I really love that came out, I think it was earlier this year, called Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. Have you heard of that?
Okay. I haven't, no.
It is, you got to get it, man. It's a fantastic book. It's one of my favorite. I probably sold like 500 copies for Joey right now. I haven't met him in person, but I've met him online. But it's just absolutely phenomenal, and just kind of goes through the process of, how to take a customer and turn them into an advocate over this like kind of 100-day process. And one of the most startling things that he says in like the introduction is, if you can reduce churn by 5%, you can increase your profit, like your bottom line profit, 25 to 100%, right? So just those customers that you already have in your back pocket, to keep them on, a couple more months or whatever that is, by just really making them happy, feel like a part of your tribe, you can just do absolute wonders for your business. You think about like if every one of your customers and your business that you have right now went and brought one of their friends, you would double your business overnight, right? Yeah. So it's just really prioritizing like that tribe that people want to be a part of, and serving them with what they're actually buying, the experience that they truly want from your products, is so incredibly important, and something that we learned, like a lot of lessons, the hard way, in not really truly understanding that.
I wanted to ask your yeah. So you've got you're building this tribe. What were here's just a specific question. This is something I'm interested in because we're with ISAC training. We're sending out mainly emails around the products that we're offering and the things that we're doing. But in order to really have an engaged list and build that sense of community, you really have to be sending a lot of non-commercial emails. I feel like is that something that you guys did? Did you guys work on sending content that was non-salesy to people along with sales emails?
Yeah, and along with that was like sort of onboarding and for people that were purchasing, like getting them to be a part of the club and understanding. But that's initially, the bulk of the content we were creating wasn't really acquisition focused. It was just sort of like brand building focused. And then, we sort of went all the way in that direction to the point where we were kind of doing over the top videos and it wasn't really resonating anymore. And we realized we had to kind of step back a bit, do brand building videos and stuff that people just enjoyed and engage with and, would open their email to see, but also, ads that we could run on Facebook for the specific purpose of getting them to try our new growth kit. So still something that does really well for us, just like, memes and engaging funny content. So we try and do that as much as we can, while also still being like, hey, maybe you should buy some beard products every now and again.
What are you seeing with the beard trend overall right now? It's like you've trimmed your beard. I gotta say, I trimmed my beard today. I guess good grooming is a good idea, anyways. But what overall are people are people wearing thin on beards at this point? Are people just longing for the days of clean shaven men?
I think that's a great question. But first of all, shaving is a trend because naturally you have a beard.
Yes,
but
good point.
Other than that canned answer, which I always love to give, I think it was certainly more prominent to have a great big beard. I would say probably like a year ago or 2 years ago when we launched, especially, was huge. But we adjusted our strategy anyways. Like everyone with a big beard knew about us anyways. And we realized that that was a really small part of the market. Whereas someone like you with a trim beard, someone like me with a trim beard, that's a much more a much larger addressable market, right? So to say the beard trend is going away, if it is or not, is kind of irrelevant. Like we're focused on providing guys who grow facial hair, which is everyone, whether you have 2 or 700,000 on your face. It's something that unites all men. And so to us, it really doesn't matter. It's kind of like been this evolution of our company in general, being like, oh, we shouldn't focus so much on this. Like, you don't have a beard, screw you, man. You're not part of our club. And to being like, hey, like, we're all men. We're all in this together. Like, let's talk about this and kind of like less about the guns and girls marketing and more about the let's stick together and take care of ourselves and take care of each other sort of marketing.
What a great message for modern men as well, right? Like it's cool to take such an aspect of masculinity that has traditionally been associated with, badass guns or whatever, girls, bikinis, beards, and all that, and to really focus around self-care. That's what I keep hearing from you as well, is this idea of, taking care of my beard. Even just recently, I've started a skin regimen. I started I moisturize in the morning, and it's this aspect of like ritual, but also this concept of like I'm worth taking care of, and I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just sort of it's kind of a sign of the times, and it's you're not any more or less of a man if you're putting on face cream. Like that doesn't really matter anymore. It's 2018. Like all is good. There's so much out there right now that exists to divide people, and there's a lot of people that seem to just like enjoy doing that. So we think it's really cool to be involved in something that brings people together. And we changed, like I said, we changed a lot of our marketing. There's a lot of campaigns now, like just kind of following and just like exposing lifestyles of different guys. And, it's called Beard Yourself. And just kind of encouraging guys to be themselves. I don't know, that sounds kind of flaky, but just one of our campaigns that seems to do really well because we're tapping into that original ethos that we started the company out of, authenticity of like us being natural and wanting to take care of ourselves. We all of a sudden got caught up in this sensationalism and guns and girls and stuff, and like that's still sells, I'm sure, and still does well, but for us, we wanted to kind of go back to the roots of where it really started, incorporate the funny stuff, but also be a voice for good. And it's great. We're really good friends with a couple of our competitors too. Always Bearded. I'm not sure if you know the guys from that, like Spencer and them. They do really well. They build community just as well as we do. They do all sorts of stuff even better than we do. And it's cool to like, I'll be seeing them next week when I'm in Arizona. It's cool to like just talk to them about the industry, and be able to have open conversations, as competitors, but like friendly competitors. And when you're in something that is still a relatively new category, it's in your best interest to figure out ways to expand that category together. And it's kind of like a bigger mindset than like, I'm going to steal your customer and you're going to steal my customer. It's like, hey, how do we go double the market size and we both double our businesses?
You're both innovating. You're both, in this sort of unicorn model of going direct to consumer with this tribe building approach. And there's a lot of men with beards out there to go around. Do you know Van Oaks from Diesel Sellers and Diesel Brothers?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you will. He's one of the speakers at E-commerce Mastery Live as well. And they do a lot, you'll have another opportunity to talk with people in that market. They've got a really interesting market and a lot of stuff around beard. And he's got the best mustache you'll ever see. He's got one of those sweet carnival mustaches.
I could never get like I could get a little bit of a twist, but my mustache just, I don't know, never lived up. A style I really love is like the short beard, but the big mustache.
Like a
1920s boxer sort of guy.
I think, well, that's my new subscription market. I'm just going to go headlock to giant mustache, small beards. So if you're like, let's just talk subscription for a second here. Like what is that a model? Like it's such an attractive model, obviously. Anytime you can work on a model that has this built-in reoccurring revenue stream as an option, it's going to be a valuable thing. Do you feel like subscription for people kind of doing e-commerce right now, maybe they're doing, let's say it's someone who's had some success drop shipping or building a more general stores or stuff like that. Do you strongly advocate for the model of trying to build out subscription-based things?
I would probably say it depends entirely on the situation. I think there's too many people that want to start a dollar something club, with no real value proposition other than like, it's really convenient that you don't have to go and order online every month. Like that's not really a value proposition. I think that there's a lot of great, highly consumable products that work really great on a subscription model. But saving like $2 a month and having something delivered to your door is not that huge of a convenience. I think that there's a lot of creative ways you can do it. And we're certainly going to see subscription e-commerce continue to explode and continue to blow up. But I don't think it's something that everyone should just be like, yeah, we're just going to start on subscription and everyone's going to take the subscription. I think even with us, it's taken a lot of fiddling around to figure out that, the retention plays and like the product sizing and like, is it more cost effective just to send somebody a box every 3 months instead of every 1 month? There's a lot of challenging questions like that, especially when you're shipping physical product, because it gets quite expensive.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing is that you can't
Amazon too, right? Like they want stuff there in like 2 days for free, and we're like, wow, this is going to take us a while, and it's not going to be free, So there's a lot of different challenges too when you're doing it yourself off of Amazon. It's something a lot of people don't consider.
Yeah, with Amazon in the room too, and I think what I heard you say as well is it's like no one's going to join a club for $2 off a month. You know what I mean? It can't be just about that monetary thing. You've got to have that underlying sort of like philosophical underpinning of why you're part of this. And I think that's what you'll talk about a lot in Bangkok, are the actual sort of like tactics that you put into place to start fostering that community.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, it's more than just selling products. And like I said, that's kind of where we hit a dead end where we're like, hey, our club is transactional right now. We need to do a lot more to actually provide value to people. And, I like to call it residual influence, when you capture like the attention, trust, and loyalty of your customers. And it's kind of about looking at retention on a longer timeline instead of just, how do we get 3 boxes instead of 2? It's how do we talk to them for the next year and build up, this loyalty with them, so we don't need to try and force it down their throats. Like with beard care products, something that people don't really have. If they have never used it before, they won't just buy it and automatically use it every day. They haven't built a habit for it. It's not like brushing your teeth sort of thing. So, if they stack up too much product, we'd rather them come back to us in 6 months when they're interested again and still be able to talk to them and continually build this relationship with them. So they just go and buy it, go back on their subscription, instead of just being like, oh man, I've got like so much beard products. These guys keep shipping them. I don't like it, So you absolutely have to do more than just, switch a subscription on and hope it does well, unless you have a truly amazing, unique product that people really need all the time. um, you know, and even at that, it's great to just kind of continually build those relationships.
Yeah, when you say build the relationships, talk a little bit about how you actually go about that. Was like I know I have a friend who's building a subscription model right now. In a really cool space, really cool CPG area that I think he's got a ton of potential in. And I know that like the first like 30 people or so that have bought this subscription, he's called to do like a full sort of like talk with and say, hey, I'm the founder and tell me about what you like about this, what were your hesitancies? Like how much in those early days is it important to literally like get on the phone and talk to your customers?
I would say like incredibly, incredibly valuable. And like he's just spot on with that strategy. It's something that we didn't do, but like I said, a huge epiphany for us was when I actually talked to the guy and was like, hey, like, why do you like us so much? And he told me exactly why, and it changed our business, right? So, a lot of times you're not going to know how to build intimacy at scale, or even like intimacy with individuals until you figure out, how you accidentally did it or just experiment with things until it works. You can kind of I think with relative certainty, guess what people in your niche or in your area of focus might like in terms of like content you can deliver them, onboarding like material once they become a customer. But you really kind of have to go out there and just continually be making tweaks and, calling people and asking for feedback, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and kind of cutting through this barrier of people being on like this list of customers actually being real people and understanding what those real people want so you can duplicate that. So I wish I could say there was a formula, but the formula is to just continually be experimenting and to be continually like have your ears open and not to try and deliver what you think people would want. It's to deliver what people actually want.
And yeah, it's that interpretation of your product that was sort of like more real than you very real intentions that you had with the product. Like you're like, we want to build this authentic sort of experience around the fact that we love beers or whatever. And you call up this guy and he tells you that, no, I'm actually part of a fraternity. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit about because you guys gained so much momentum early on because of your videos. I think I probably have seen these videos. I should have watched them before the interview here. I can't recall them instantly. But talk a little bit about like what goes into making a video that has the potential to go viral.
So I mean, like this is something that we were getting asked all the time, especially when we had a couple of videos that were doing really well and going viral. And then I'm sure everybody that's watching this kind of felt the Facebook crunch where, even to, I think we have like 1.3 million likes on Facebook. And we're lucky to get 10,000 views if we post one on Facebook now. It like the math doesn't make sense. But, really, I think, again, what I would come back to is that kind of authenticity and tapping into something that people already kind of resonate with and starting with that as like a starting point of like, what do people in my niche like think is funny or like shocking or very emotional, and try and tap into those pre-existing conditions with something that gets an emotional response. And I think that's like kind of a great starting point. There is, I was going to say that we have Chris kind of put down he did a lot of the videos, so he kind of created this guide on what he was using. Like it's kind of like reverse engineering our videos called Proven, Prohven. And we threw a mastermind event a couple of years ago. Actually, this is crazy. Like 2 years ago today, I think was the first day of it. I didn't think of that. But it's unconsciouscontent.com. I think the PDF still should work. I haven't checked on it in a while, but I can link it to you guys too, if you want to include that in the comments or whatever. But it basically just kind of breaks down like the different elements that we've used in our videos, like to get people's attention, then to like mention the product, to like build a connection and stuff like that. So there was a bit of like method to our madness, but we also realized that as we went through the process and launched more and more videos, that we were sort of creating this expectation that we could go viral with every video, and it was not a sustainable path for us whatsoever. And realized that it was sometimes better to create a video that doesn't go viral, but that we could put Facebook dollars behind and actually get people's attention, and then start them into a funnel. So the first thing that I always say to people when they're like, hey, we want to create a viral video, I'm like, well, that would be great if your video goes viral, but you should just focus on creating a great video that achieves specific outcomes like explaining your product or, acquiring a customer or just kind of like getting people's attention. So you can start that conversation with that first video view and then retargeting them after that. So it was a lesson that we learned that, going viral is not always the best intention to have. It's just a fabulous bonus if it happens.
Yeah, and that's going to lead potentially to that inauthentic sort of nature. And I think you guys experimented with that. Even you guys went down the funnel. You started with a certain kind of video, and then in order to keep getting it, you had to push it further and further away from its initial value.
And we've shot videos that cost $120,000, and that brought in not that much in revenue, like half as much in revenue. Like they were great for brand building. They were seen by a lot of people, so it's kind of hard to measure, but we had acquisition specific videos that were just for Facebook ads that we shot for like $1,000 that would bring in, $200,000 in revenue over a couple months. So we just sort of realized, like our initial video before, like I think it brought in about, I would say $2.5 million that we can attribute to it, and it cost us $1,800. So like
talk about that video for a sec. So what were the elements that made that one such a success besides tapping into a big wave? Like what was the authenticity that really grabbed people there? Did it address a pain point that everyone shares with the beard or something?
I think it was just like, it was original in the beard market. Like no one had done something like that in the beard market about talking about like bearded guys. Like there had been, your viral thread videos of like beards are really big right now. But no one had done something that was just like kind of like in your face, like we have a beard and like, join the club and do this. So I think that just because it was so fresh, it was able to, really connect with a lot of people. And, I can't pretend for a second that we didn't have, this great company that started before us called Dollar Shave Club that did an extremely great job of explaining subscription e-commerce to a lot of people who didn't understand it before that. So being able to like, people were like, oh, we get it. It's like that model, but, for people that don't shave. So them kind of breaking down those barriers, like they were one of the best examples of subscription e-commerce, like done right in a time when no one really understood subscription e-commerce. They were the pioneers in a lot of ways.
And I really like that you guys took the flip side of the coin approach. Like if these guys are doing it for this, societal trend, like the societal trend of not shaving is actually bigger, or right now it is, over the past several years has been. So it's like you take the same model, but the flip side of it in a sort of non-competitive space. It's really, I just got my mind spinning about like other things that are out there right now that could kind of be flipped on their head and subscribe to on the other side too. It's Art. So are you consistently like, what does your time look like now? So are you still, how involved in the day-to-day at the Beard Club are you? And then what are your main focuses?
So I'm not involved really in hardly any of the day-to-day in Beard Club anymore. We hired an amazing executive team, and even my business partner Chris has just had his first child 2 months ago, I believe. So he's taking some time off too, and we have just an amazing team that is crushing it on like profitability and acquisition and kind of gearing up for the next phases of Beard Club. And I'm super passionate about helping other entrepreneurs. As Beard Club is taking off, I got all these opportunities to speak, and this why you and I ended up connected. So about 6 months ago, I said to Chris, I really want to start pursuing other things, and I'd like to kind of take a step back from Beard Club and start helping other people. And I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, was kind of how the conversation went. And so lately I've been doing a number of different things in consulting and helping other companies. I'm working on a coaching program for e-commerce companies. I basically start to finish wrote a training course called Subscription Hacks. Yeah, and it was kind of a brain dump that of like everything that I've learned and wish I knew, kind of put it all into one place. And that was very therapeutic. And then this summer, I just took a little bit of time off. I got super burned out from years and years of pushing hard. And my father passed away last fall, so like a lot of things kind of came to head all at the same time. And it's like I really need to realign with my family and get some me time in. So it's been a crazy last 6 months to 1 year, and but I'm loving it right now. I get to help a lot of different companies, and it's super rewarding helping people avoid the exact same mistakes that I fell into. It kind of adds value to them, like, hey, don't do this because we really screwed up. So yeah, I'm still figuring that. I'm not sure if I will be starting like another e-commerce company of my own, or if I'd rather just kind of help other people. There's just lots of opportunities to help people out right now. So I'm just kind of fielding whatever's out there and just seeing what the universe brings to me and being grateful for it all.
I like it. It must be an interesting position having had, such a nice success, well, you've had a few big wins now, it feels like, but you've had the big Beard Club win, then being able to actually systematize it to the point that you can kind of step away from it, and then sort of going into the wilderness a little bit as you're doing now, like this sort of soul searching journey that you're on. Do you feel a sense of anxiety about having to replicate the success of previous things, or like where
Absolutely.
are you? Because I know as entrepreneurs, you're just a ball of anxiety,
Yeah,
because even no matter how hard you're working, you're never working hard enough. There's always things you could be doing here, there. So how are you dealing with it now?
I mean, to be honest, that was sort of what the step back was kind of needed. Like when I finished the course and kind of did a soft launch, I was just like, I was stressed out and I was completely burned out, and I had placed this completely unfair pressure on myself to have this business that does $10 million in its first year again. Like that is a very unrealistic goal, and I sort of got disconnected from that. I forgot what it was like to not have this momentum and stuff like that. So I really got identified with this idea, like, hey, I don't really know what I want to do right now, and I'm not really sure what the next steps are and what that looks like. Meanwhile, like I'm committed to being an entrepreneur, and that's all it is uncertainty. So I kind of like forgot this for some reason in my mind, and just really have, for most of the journey of the last 4 years, have not really stayed fully present in it, and just being like, hey, what is the end goal and where are we going? And over the last summer, I've had to reconnect with like, hey, the end goal is constantly changing. Where you are right now is exactly where you're meant to be, and everything is going to be okay. And stop being so freaking hard on yourself. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this are really hard on themselves. It's sort of like an entrepreneurial thing, and it's not really talked about a lot, but it causes a lot of anxiety and depression. And I've struggled with both of those things because of these expectations that I think other people have of me, which really are a projection of my own insecurities. So it's really good to bring awareness to that and be able to take a deep breath and say, like, look, buddy, don't take yourself so seriously. This is all a dream.
It is gently floating down sometimes, but this, it's again, it's another club as well. It's this entrepreneurs club, and it's funny because there's a lot of e-commerce brands built around hustle and embracing the hustle and entrepreneurship as well. But I don't know if there's many that are out there that are about this like mindful entrepreneurship, this this club that we find ourselves in, that our spouses may not fully understand, or that our families may not fully understand the level, to which your mind is sort of spinning all the time. And so to have this is the thing that I value so much about these events, about this Bangkok event we have coming up, and we have planned in 2019.
I was going to say that like the events are just like, you get the energy and the connection with, I just can't wait to give you a hug in real life, man. It's going to be awesome. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just, no. Events are like when you get that many entrepreneurs in a room together, or even if it's a smaller group of entrepreneurs, you're just like, cool, I can talk real talk right now, and I don't have to have a pissing competition with this person. I can be vulnerable, and we can be like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out. And the other person's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out. And we're like, cool, we're just figuring it all out together.
Yeah, exactly. No, the events, we're going to talk about them more going forward, but events are the highest value thing that we do as an organization. And we're going to be putting a lot of effort into them into the future. And Thailand, I just wrote this in an email today that's going out. It's actually a non-sales email, one of my first. I'm telling the story about the 3 ways that like taking the plunge and flying to Bangkok has changed my life. It's happened to me 3 times now that I've just sort of on a whim gone to Bangkok, taken an opportunity, and it's sort of transformed my life in all these different ways. And it's not like you're going to walk away from the event of e-commerce mastery live with a notebook filled with tips and tricks and hacks and things like that. But it's just almost like it's almost more about like signaling to yourself that you're in it, that you're in this community, that you're part of this club, and then going there, and you'll find every person that you talk to there is gonna know what you've gone through and want to find ways to work with you to help you in the future.
Yeah, it's a tribe. That's what we were talking about earlier. Like this is the e-commerce entrepreneurship tribe, and it's super important to be a part of something like that.
Fantastic. Well, let's leave it there. But I think we've owned this for our first live broadcast. We've had only a few people watching live. Thanks very much for watching us live. I know a lot more will watch it in the replays, and then when we post it on YouTube as well. If you want to come and figure out what's next with Eric, Alex, and the whole group of e-commerce mastery live speakers, both at our event, I'll tell you about it too, Alex. We're also going to be doing a mastermind dinner that you'll be invited to, obviously, because we want to have all of our speakers there. And we are going to have a hell of a time, as we always do at these events. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the Robust Marketer first ever live episode, Alex.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, man. I'm
stoked for Thailand now. This is unbelievable.
And you haven't been to Thailand, you were saying?
This is going to be my first time. I've been to Asia a couple of times, but never to Thailand. So I'm really excited.
It's a truly magical place. Make sure you make some time before or after to immerse yourself, because it's an unbelievable culture. It's so fun.
I will definitely do that.
Nice. Okay, thanks everyone. And I'm going to check the comment feeds on here. If you do watch this after the fact and you have any questions, Alex and I will both check the comments and answer any questions that you might have. As always, make sure you share this stuff. Make sure you tell your friends about it. If you see this on YouTube, make sure you follow us there. It's going to be another great season of the Robust Marketer. We're going to interview all the speakers that we have in Bangkok, who are some of the people that we've interviewed before. We're going to go back and check in with them and talk about what's new. Again, thanks, Alex. We will see you in Thailand.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Okay, cheers.
Take care.